Next up, we have Darren Gordon, Managing Director of Centaurus Limited. Darren is a chartered accountant with over 25 years of experience in senior executive roles, including executive involvement in financing resource projects from both debt and equity perspective. Darren has over 13 years of experience operating in Brazil and has a deep understanding of the regulatory framework and general operating environment needed to advance natural resource projects through development to production. This in-country expertise assists in guiding Centaurus' team in development plans to advance its Jaguar nickel sulphide project in northern Brazil.
Do you want me to go now? I'm still trying to work out how you have batteries in lithium and not focus on the nickel, but that's okay. Thanks everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to present here again. Centaurus is very excited about the Jaguar nickel sulphide project in Brazil. We, acquired this project 4 years ago. I was at Diggers trying to get the finishing touches done to a deal with Vale, and thankfully we were able to pull that together. So over the course of the last 4 years we've made an immense amount of achievements. And we're well on our way now to bringing this project to fruition. You've seen a few of those during the course of your day. So we are trying to build a strategic mineral business in Brazil that is all cornerstoned around the Jaguar nickel sulphide project. It is located in the Carajás mineral province of northern Brazil. It is really one of the best places to be operating globally. There's a huge amount of mineral endowment, there's a huge amount of infrastructure. And we feel like now we've put together a very, very significant resource which is underpinning our project. We've, I think, achieved a lot over the last 12 months since I stood on stage here. Our mineral resource has grown enormously, adding nearly 220,000 tonnes of nickel to the total resource, extensively lifting the measured and indicated component by over 300,000 tonnes, which is now what's underpinning the feasibility study work that we are doing. And if you look at it in a total context basis of nearly 950,000 tonnes of contained nickel metal in an open pitable nickel sulphide resource, we feel like we have one of the best nickel sulphide projects globally. We've had exploration success. We've been finding further mineralisation as we go deeper. We would expect that our resource is going to continue to grow, but we do have a lot of metal already there, and that is, as I said, what's underpinning the feasibility study work that is underway. Pit optimisation work's been done. We've completed pilot plant test work on the downstream processing. The plan of attack for us is to produce a nickel sulphate, and I'll talk to that market a little bit more as we go, but I think for the purpose of what we're doing, we feel like that it really is the best play for us at the present point in time. When we did this deal 4 years ago, Vale retained the offtake rights, and it was something that was needed to get the deal across the line. Just about 2 months ago, we were able to close out those offtake rights and buy them back from Vale. And for us, we feel like that's been one of the real, value accretive steps that we've been able to take. Really demonstrating that we've now got a whole wealth of funding opportunities in front of us which we didn't have when Vale was there sitting with 100% of the offtake. We were able to do that by just increasing the royalty interest that Vale had, no cash out, no shares out, and so still have Vale as a stakeholder, supportive where they want to be, because if you're operating in the Carajás, you really do want to have Vale as a partner. They dominate that area. They've got a whole bunch of projects operating in that space. So to be able to do that, I think, is a major achievement for us. So what we're now trying to do is, leverage that, having a lot more strategic conversations, introducing the project to a lot more groups that will come in to hopefully fund the project at a project level, and really, minimise the amount of equity dilution that we're going to have to take on at the corporate level. Obviously, we want to do that with fair valuations. That's still work that's got to proceed, but for where we are today, I think that that's going to have huge value implications for us as we take the project forward. As I said just at the outset in a bit of jest, but I think you can't have this electrification of industry, the EV sector rolling out, having all these deals being done in lithium, but not really having any follow through in nickel. If you look at this has come out from the DOE in the US, as nickel being a near critical mineral at the moment, in 3 or 4 years' time, it's going to be a critical mineral and one that everyone is going to be after. And I can tell you right now that even with the initial conversations that we've had with strategic partners, there is an enormous amount of interest that's going to flow through into the nickel space, particularly nickel sulphide ore that can produce a nickel sulphate product that can go directly into the batteries. So we're seeing more transactions looking to transpire, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a whole flow through of transactions that happen over the sort of next 6 to 12 months. And just to put that into context of where this is going, on those maps there, the green dots are basically gigafactories that are either planned to come in stream or are on stream. The green dots are the ones that have got nickel chemistry associated with them. So you can see that most of the gigafactories are still being premised around nickel chemistry, both in Europe and in the US. If you look out there, you've got nearly 1,800 gigawatt hours of capacity growth with 1,500 gigawatt hours coming with nickel chemistry in mind. So where is that all going to come from? Today, if you look at that demand, it's only 8 times what Centaurus and Jaguar are planning to produce. But if you roll that forward a little bit, you've got to find 64 Jaguar projects to come on stream to service this growing demand. And we think that Centaurus is in a very good position with the project that it's got to really capture what's going to happen in the future. So just talking about Brazil, very good tenement system. It's obviously got an environmental approval process that is well known. There's clear terms of reference as we lodge our documents. We have lodged our environmental impact assessment, and I'll talk to that in a little bit more detail in a sec. There's a favourable tax system of 15% in the Carajás region, which is obviously very strong for our economics on a post-tax basis. There's royalties that go straight back into the region, so it's not like Australia where you have to fight to get money out of consolidated revenue to come back into the regions. Where the project is located is where the majority of the royalties go, so you do have good community support, good buy-in. There's a great opportunity for job creation in a part of the world which is probably crying out for new industries. But I think the biggest thing that Brazil's got going for us right now is it's a renewable powerhouse. 80% of its grid power is coming from renewable sources. It's not the reason we went to Brazil 15 years ago, but it's definitely something that we look to leverage off now and really demonstrate that the environmental footprint and the greenhouse gas emissions associated with this project are going to be very, very low. That Carajás region has, as I said, a multitude of very large projects. Top of screen, Salobo, 36 million tonnes of ore going through at Vale's largest copper mine. Middle of screen is S11D, 90 million tonnes of the highest grade iron ore globally. Out to the west, Vale's Onça Puma operations is only 15 kilometres from where we are, and we'll be looking to, I guess, leverage off the infrastructure that is in that region without having to rely directly on Vale. Aero Copper, Canadian-listed copper company, is putting together a copper flotation circuit at Tucumã at their Boa Esperança project, and on the far right you've got another listed company called Horizonte Minerals building another ferronickel operation. So there's plenty of activity here, but importantly a lot of infrastructure, water, road, high voltage power, everything that you need to be able to put a project together is here in the Carajás mineral province. We will tap into that 230 kV line that runs to Onça Puma ferronickel operations. We'll put a spur on there that'll run 40 kilometres. With the power demand that we will have for this project, being a sulphate project, we will be able to go into the grid and actually buy our power on the open market. And with that will become very low power, but importantly I think we'll be on 100% renewable based power by the time that we do our deal with the local providers. This emissions curve was from a couple of years ago when we did initial studies on the project. It's going to be updated as part of the feasibility study, but you can see we're right down on the bottom left where our emissions are going to be. And this is becoming more and more important as we talk to financiers, talk to partners about where that's going to be, particularly if we look to target our key markets into North America and into Europe. At 100% renewables, I guess, curve, we probably push even further to the left. So we are in a very strong position when it comes to talking about the emission footprint. The resource is 109 million tonnes, 0.87% nickel, as I said, for nearly 950,000 tonnes contained. Our feasibility study is just going to be on open pittable mineralisation at this point in time, but I can tell you that that mineralisation keeps going at depth, and I'll show you that in a sec. There will be future underground here, there will be future resource growth. We're very confident that that will go out beyond 1 million tonnes the next time we do a resource upgrade, which will probably be the start of next year. Importantly, for the feasibility study, there's 750,000 tonnes thereabouts that is in the measured and indicated, which is what we're using for all of our optimisation work and, more importantly, the mine design that we've got going on. There will be low strip ratio ore at the start of the project. There will be also relatively high-grade mineralisation that we can access within sort of 5 or 10 metres from surface. But I think when you look at that overall resource, I think it's good to put it into context. Sometimes it's said, oh, well, it's low grade. Well, it might be low grade for if you're thinking about a high grade underground, but when you think about an open pittable deposit, it's probably 2 to 3 times most open pittable deposit grades. So when you sit it against all the nickel sulphide projects around the globe, we've both got tonnage and grade on our side, and there's really only the major nickel camps around the globe that all of you will be familiar with that are sort of standing out there, and probably the only asset from an undeveloped perspective that sits there with a higher grade than where we are is that Kabanga, which has now gone into a SPAC and listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So we expect that that resource will continue to grow. We'll obviously be able to push further in the tonnage side, probably doesn't change too much in the grade. Mineralisation there is vertical, subvertical. There's high-grade mineralisation inside the pit, but more importantly, we've been hitting very strong mineralisation at depth. On that left-hand side, you probably can't read it particularly well, but there's an intersection we got about 3 months ago that was 20 metres at nearly 4% nickel. We've seen those sort of mineralisation along with some strike extent to it. We're now looking at how we go about testing and demonstrating that that's got legs as we go deeper. We are benefited by the fact that we can use downhole EM as a very powerful targeting tool. We generally don't have any false positives. If we hit a conductor plate or have a conductor plate, we're generally hitting the mineralisation. I just can't tell you what the grades or the widths are going to be until we drill it. But right now we've got a couple of rigs on site that are going to be going down and doing these deeper holes, doing a mother hole and then wedging off and doing some daughter holes in there, testing below that 20 metres at 4. We've also had some other really strong intersections over the last month or two that really gives us confidence in the future underground. But as I said, right now it's all about the open pittable material and what we're going to do with that for the purposes of the feasibility study. So the mining is well advanced. As I said, pit optimisations have been done. The mine design is well advanced, feeding into the economic model. We've done a lot of work on the concentrator, the front end part of the circuit, and now we're just trying to do the finishing touches to the back end, the refinery part of the circuit. And that's really, I guess, to run this flow sheet to ground from a capital and operating cost perspective. So top left there is the concentrator circuit feeding into pressure oxidation and then various stages of solvent extraction, ultimately with producing a high grade and battery grade nickel sulphate product. And as I said before, when you start talking to the market, as we have, you really do get a sense that sulphate is the right product. Maybe go back 2 years ago, oh, why are you doing that? Well, we're saying that because the market is there and is crying out for this sort of product in volume. So the spec is there. We were having these conversations with Vale when they were looking at the offtake. We've had conversations with other groups. We know what the range of the specifications need to be. We're well below the low end of the range, and we think that will only improve with time as we do more and more work. From an environmental point of view, which is sometimes always a concern in Brazil, what are you going to do over there? How's that things with the tailings dam, I can tell you that we've got a very clear terms of reference for the environmental impact assessment. It's been lodged for some time now. We're really waiting on the last phase of the Environmental Agency's assessment work, which is to have a public hearing in the local municipalities, and we're hopeful that that will be later this year with a view to getting what they call the preliminary licence, or I guess the most key environmental licence in your hand by the end of the year. The mining lease application has also been lodged. Technical approval of that should be coming through in the second half of this year, with the formal grant of that mining lease only coming when you get the installation licence. So get your mining lease, get your installation licence, and then you're in a position to build your project. What we want to see is, I guess, a very clear pathway. In order to do that, we've had very good community consultation in the local areas. As I said, we've benefited from the fact that Aero Copper are also operating in the region, so there is, I guess, an ongoing and growing mining culture happening in those local municipalities where we are located. There'll be a fairly extensive training program that goes on with our people. Probably got to train up 1,500 odd people for the construction roles that we expect to happen when we launch the decision to mine. But we're in a very good position from an environmental and approvals perspective. So we'll finish the feasibility study by the end of this year, making the final investment decision by the third quarter of next year with the installation licence and the mining lease in hand. Obviously, we want to have the financing of the project squared away, which is really starting now with more strategic conversations from a partnering perspective, and we would expect that those can play out over the next 6 months. It'll be a 2-year construction period with us sort of looking to come on stream sort of in 2027, which if you tie that back to where we see that growth in these gigafactories and that supply of nickel really being warranted, I think that's going to time very, very well. Can't do that without people. We've got a very good team of people in country in Brazil. As I said, we picked it up 4 years ago. We did a lot of work during COVID. Even when we couldn't travel, we still had the team on the ground that actually could facilitate and get the exploration work done. We've been moving and transitioning through from exploration and geological teams into more technical based teams, both from a mining engineering and engineering perspective, but also from a metallurgy and hydrometallurgical perspective. And I think that our team of people that we've got right now is an excellent team to be able to get this project done. So I'll just close out. Nickel focused in Brazil. We think that we have a very, very serious project. When we start to talk to partners, we really do get a sense for how strategic this supply of nearly 1 million tonnes of contained nickel is going to be. We think that will push well beyond 1 million tonnes next time we do our resource. It will generate strong cash flows, it will generate strong returns, and we are, I guess, in a position now to just make everything happen. So thank you everyone. It's a very quick snapshot of what we're doing.